Welcome to the Trooper Transmission. This is CT3939, but you can call me Paul. And in this video, we're gonna break down the newest episode of Andor, the announcement. I'm gonna dive into the things that I like, the things that stood out to me, and where we could be going in future episodes. So I really think that this was a hinge episode. The previous 6 episodes started out with everything going on in Aldhani and the group getting ready for the burglary, for the heist. And this one is kind of the part in the story where everything's gonna hinge, everything's going to turn. I love that it started out with Cyril, and there are so many funny moments with him where you're basically being like, yep, that's the dude who works in a cubicle. You see him looking out the window. He's having his mom basically just scold him for his outfit. He's drinking the blue milk. He's got the cereal again. And right after that, you cut to a scene with Yularen addressing everyone at the ISB, and he's talking about everything that he's getting downloaded from the Emperor. And he's talking about all these new bills that they're gonna pass, which I thought was really cool, that we're actually getting ties to Palpatine at this point. I cracked up when he listed off that they had some initiative that was gonna be the PORD, P-O-R-D. It's like, wow, this is the most corporate thing ever. We're just gonna take random words, mash them up into some sort of acronym, and that's what we're gonna champion moving forward. I thought more than anything, this entire episode was just like, what is it like to be in a corporate job? And then they just put a Star Wars skin on it. From there, it goes to Luthen and his store. Mon Mothma is paying him a visit. Basically, she's like outraged that this is happening, but she kind of knew that that was gonna happen. And I love where he used this quote, "Has anyone ever made a weapon that wasn't used?" One of the things I thought that was really cool that stood out was you see a temple guard mask, I believe, behind Luthen in one of the scenes, just adding to a lot of the cool nostalgic elements that are present in his store, in his shop, that are callbacks to other Star Wars media. I think this episode really did a good job of diving into a lot of the original Star Wars elements that we've always wanted. We see stormtroopers for the first time, we see shore troopers a little bit later in the episode, we even get a flashback to what would be clone troopers, but would have been after the Empire had taken over. So I'm curious if they're actually clones or if they're conscripted and just regular civilians in the same clothing. I thought the Star Destroyer over Aldhani was super cool, and then you see Cinta rolling out what reminded me of a Razor scooter. If you were a 90s kid, we all had it, that Razor scooter that we ride around the neighborhood in. That's basically what she was riding in, but just in a galaxy far, far away version. I also had some serious corporate PTSD when Deidre walked in to the guy that was falling asleep and was basically like, hey, I need you to pull these reports. And he's like, for which star system? She says, for all of them. And I'm like, man, I've been there so many times when the director comes and says, hey, I need you to pull this report on this account. And you're like, okay, which account year? And they're like, oh, the last 20. And you're like, you know how long that's gonna take? They're like, yeah, I don't care. We see Andor going back to Ferrix, and he's having a lot of conversations with Marva. He also goes and has conversations with Bix. I thought it was great to see him pay off his debts, 12,000 credits, that should do it. Curious who it is that she's interacting with that is leaving her bruised. I think that'll be revealed in future episodes. I don't think we're done with Marva. I don't think we're done with Bix either. They played too important of a role in Andor's life and too big of a role earlier in previous episodes to just nix. Overall, my favorite part of this episode was with Tay Kolma and how Mon Mothma is basically walking around this extravagant party with him, pretending like they're talking about old times, but in reality, she's testing him with some secret, undercover, political-based language to see, can I trust you? And initially, he's like, hey, I don't think I can trust you with my extreme point of views. And then she very subtly is able to communicate, oh, I don't think you understand just how extreme my points of view are. Everything that we've seen with her is essentially her being a master chess player and creating this facade, creating this image of what Mon Mothma is so that no one sees what she's doing in the dark. I love the idea of focusing on the stone so that no one sees the knife at their throat. Finally, we get Andor chilling in what looked like Panama City or some sort of Florida chill vacation spot. You can see the aliens and the people laying by the beach, tan, getting burnt. He's got some sort of girlfriend that he's waking up with, and he's just living the life. I would love to get more of this planet because this planet is literally taken out of the page of a Sandals resort book. But of course, like Andor always does, he finds trouble right away. He gets mixed up with a shore trooper who ultimately turns him on to this K2SO type droid, and ultimately he's getting slammed. 6 years prison sentence. That is brutal. I think in the next episode, we're going to see him essentially having to team up with someone or get help from Luthen, and that's gonna bring him back into the rebellion mix. Overall, I really enjoyed the episode. After last week's episode, I thought that was a 10 out of 10. I thought this one was a 7 out of 10, which is exactly what I'd want it to be for a turn hinge type episode. It was never going to be this big, crazy episode, but I think the really cool things for me was getting more background on Mon Mothma and who she's having to be to become the Mon Mothma that we know in A New Hope. And then we see Star Destroyer, Shore Trooper, Stormtrooper, Clone Trooper, literally so much more behind the scenes as well with everything going on in the ISB. And we got Palpatine call out. So big one for me, love the episode. Let me know what you think below in the comments. Otherwise, I'll catch you on the next Trooper transmission. This is CT3939, checking out.